Hey everybody, and welcome back to another fun and exciting intermediate math class. Today we'll be go ahead and jump into lesson 1.9, and that is talking about fractions, just some basic stuff about fractions. We'll get into things like kind of like naming fractions, reducing fractions, converting fractions, things like that. So if you will, go ahead and look down in your book at page number 41. Page number 41, that's lesson 1.9. All right, so look down at the screen. It says here that a fraction is used to represent part of a whole or a group. Listen, if I'm teaching about fractions, I'm talking about pizza, okay? Because I love pizza. Maybe you love pizza too. I'm kind of torn between pizza and tacos, right? I mean, that's like, I don't know which one I like better, but I love them both. So in fractions, I talk about pizza. And there's a reason I talk about pizza, because everybody can kind of relate to pizza. Everybody kind of knows what it is, and it's in pieces and things like that. So if we're looking at this pizza, we're looking at a one whole pizza, right? Now there's two pieces missing from that whole pizza, okay? So these two pieces are gone. I ate them, okay? I love pepperoni, it's my favorite. So I ate these two pieces of pizza right here. Now, the question is, how much pizza is left, okay? Now, the easiest way to do that would be to count how many pieces are left. So you could come over here and you could say, okay, so we have one piece, two pieces, three pieces. There are four pieces of pizza left. So here's the way that we would write that. We would say there are four pieces of pizza left, but then we would have to put a little line like that, and then we tell how many total pieces there were. So then we would say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There were 6 total pieces of pizza. So we would have to put our 6 right there. So the way that we would express this is we would say there are 4/6 of the pizza. Now, we're going to do something, we're going to come back to this a little bit later, and we're going to do something called reduce, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But for right now, there are 4 pieces of pizza of the total 6 pieces. So this is the part, okay, that number right there is the part, and then this is the whole, right? That's how many total pieces of pizza there are. So it's part over whole or part over total. How many total pieces are there in the pizza? There are 6. That's the bottom number. The top number is how many do I actually have. Okay? Now, let's talk about those parts to a fraction, right? We talked about the top number and the bottom number. So if we come back over here, we'll see that the top number actually has a name, okay? And the top number is called the numerator, okay? So the top number, this guy right here, would be called the numerator. Then we have this next piece right here called the fraction bar. That's that line that separates them, and that would be this piece right here of the fraction. That's called the fraction bar or the line. And then you would have the last piece here would be the denominator. That's our bottom number, and that would be this one right here. More than likely, you probably already know those 3 parts. But it's very important because in these videos, I'll say something like in the numerator or in the denominator of this fraction, or what does the fraction bar mean? I'll say things like that, and you'll have to know what each one of those pieces means. So there you go. Make sure that you know the different parts to the fraction. Numerator, top number, fraction bar, that's the line that separates them, and then the bottom number is called the denominator. Let's keep moving along. The next thing in your book there, you'll see, this is on page number 41 still, are the types of fractions, different kinds of fractions. So there's really 3 different kinds of fractions that we'll be using. The first one is called a proper fraction. And proper fractions are when you're representing something less than 1. What do I mean by that? In this fraction, I'm representing less than 1 whole pizza. Okay, we don't have 2 pizzas here. We have less than 1. So somebody ate 2 pieces. That was me, okay? So I ate 2 pieces. And now we don't have a whole pizza. We only have part of a pizza. We go back here and we have 4/6 of the pizza. This is what's called a proper fraction. So it's less than 1. So let's say, let's make one up. We'll say 1/5. 1/5 is a proper fraction because that would mean that I have only one piece, but there were 5 total pieces. Okay, so it's less than a whole pizza. The next one is called the improper fraction, and I don't really love that name because it almost sounds like it's a bad fraction. When we get to algebra, you're actually going to be using improper fractions, and you can actually leave your answers as improper fractions. So I almost don't like that name. I like to call these fractions of more than one. What does that mean? Here's what it means. If I have 2 pieces of pizza, right, or 2 whole pizzas, and I have one, let's say that I have one that's whole, okay? So that's basically 4 out of 4, right? All right. And I have another pizza that has 1 piece in it. So that's 1 out of 4. So how many do I have total? I have 5 out of 4 pizzas, okay? So now that looks a little weird, right? So 5 out of 4, this is what's called an improper fraction. Why is it improper? Because it's more than one pizza. We have 2 pizzas. So we have 1 full pizza and part of a second pizza. That's what's called an improper fraction. The way that I like to say this is, let me put that fraction back up over there. 5/4 is improper. One way that I like to say this is like, think of this. In this case, this proper fraction, this is like, let's say that I have a nephew or a son, and he's little, and I put him up on top of my shoulders, right? You've seen dads carry their kids on top of their shoulders, something like that. So I'm going to carry my nephew on top of my shoulders, okay? Now, if he's 1, he's small, right? And I'm 5, I'm big, so I can carry him, I can handle him. That's the proper way to do it, right? This is proper with the little guy on top and the big dude on the bottom. Now, it's improper, watch this. So if I put the big guy on top, right? Because he's going to smush the little guy. So it's improper when you put the big guy on top. So if there's ever a bigger number on top than there is on the bottom, so look, 5 is bigger than 4, so 5 should crush 4, okay? So that's improper. When you see the big guy on top and the little guy on the bottom, that little guy is going to get crushed by the big guy. Maybe that will help you to remember that. All right, the next thing here is a mixed number. Now, a mixed number is also a different way of writing more than one, so kind of like an improper fraction, but this is kind of the, I guess, the better way to write it, if you will. What we can do is we can write a number, okay, so we can write 1. Let's go back to our pizzas here, right? We had 4 pieces. All right, so we had 1, 2, 3, 4 there, and then we had 1 in this one. So if I say I had 1, so instead of doing this time, instead of writing 4/4, which is how we got the improper fraction, now if I just say, okay, that's just 1 pizza. I'm not even going to divide this into pieces. It's just a whole pizza. We haven't even cut it yet, okay? So we'll get rid of those cuts, and it's just 1 whole pizza. But now I have 1 out of 4 over here. So now I have this. Okay? And so the way that the mixed number looks is you would have 1 and 1/4. Okay? So that is a mixed number when you have a whole number and a fraction together. Mixed number. To be honest, this is the same thing as this. 5/4 is equal to 1 and 1/4. Because look, our pizza situation never changed. Here, we just had lines drawn in this, so we had 4 pieces. So 4 over 4 is the same thing as 1. Anytime that you have the same number over top of the other number, it equals 1. So if I have, 3 over 3, that equals 1. If I have 10 over 10, that equals 1. Whenever you have the same number on top as you have on the bottom, that always equals 1. These are actually called improper fractions as well. When you have the same number on top and the same number on the bottom, those are technically improper fractions as well as the ones where you have the bigger number on top than you have on the bottom. Okay, so proper fraction, little number on top, big number on the bottom. Improper fraction, big number on top, little number on the bottom. And then mixed number is where you have a whole number and a fraction together. All right, let's go ahead and convert some mixed numbers to improper fractions. This is actually fairly easy. You just have to know this process. So number 1, we're going to multiply the denominator by the whole number. Number 2, we're going to add the numerator. And then number 3, we're going to replace the numerator with the new number and keep the denominator the same. Sounds complicated. It's not. All right, so watch this. Let's do it with our 1 1/4 that we just had, okay? So now let's work through this process. Let's do step number 1. Multiply the denominator by the whole number. So here's your denominator, and here's your whole number. We're going to multiply that, okay? What is 4 times 1? 4 times 1 is 4, okay? Now we're going to add the numerator. So now I go here and we're going to add this. So plus 1. So 4 plus 1 equals 5. Okay? Now what do we do with that 5? Check out step number 3. Replace the numerator with the new number. Okay? So now my numerator is this new number that I got. So there's my numerator. And keep the same denominator. What was my denominator? It was 4. So my denominator is going to be 4. So there we are back to 5/4. Let's look back up here. There was our 1 1/4. There was our 5/4. So we just converted it between improper fraction and mixed number. It can go back and forth. Let me show you how to change it back. So let's say we have an improper fraction, but we want to make it a mixed number. All we do in that case is we divide. We basically just knock it over and we divide it. So we go, let's change the color here. So we'll go 5 divided by 4. 4 goes into 5 one time, 4, and I have a remainder of 1. What you do with the remainder is you take the remainder and you put it over top of your divisor. So I would have 1 1/4. There it is. So I can go back and forth between them. The way that you do that is by following these simple steps. Multiply the denominator by the whole number, add the numerator, and then replace the numerator with the new number, and then you keep the same denominator. And then to change it back, if you want to, you would just divide, and it goes back to a mixed number. All right, last thing here is we will talk about equivalent fractions and reducing. Equivalent fractions means exactly what it sounds like. What does equivalent mean, right? Equal, okay? Fractions that have the same value, but they use different numbers. What do I mean by that? Let's take the fraction 1/2, okay? 1/2, if we don't change the value of 1/2, what can we get? So let's take our pizzas over here, all right? And let's cut that in 1/2, all right? So here's our 1/2, okay? Now, that's 1/2, right? So we took 1/2 of the pizza right there. Now, let's say that we take another pizza, and instead of cutting it in half, we cut it in 4. But watch this. We have 1 2/4. See how 1/2 and 2/4 is exactly the same amount of pizza? There's no difference in the amount of pizza. It's just cut. We just took this piece and we cut it. That's all we did. Okay? So we have the same amount of pizza. So in other words, 1/2 is the same thing as 2/4. They're the exact same fraction. Okay? Now, we could keep going with this, and I'll show you how easy this is to keep going with this. Here's the way that we do this. Look, if we say 1 times 2 equals 2, and 2 times 2 equals 4, there's our new fraction. Look what we had to multiply by. Now I'm going to show you something that's really cool. We multiplied by 2 over 2. What did 2 over 2 equal just a second ago? When I went up here and I told you that, like, 2 over 2 equals, do you remember? I said it was equal to 1. Remember, 10 over 10 is also equal to 1, right? So when we have the same number, in essence, what we're doing is we're multiplying by 1. Let's just choose a number. Let's say 4 times 1. What does 4 times 1 equal? 4 times 1 equals 4. Anything by itself, anything by 1 always equals itself. So 6 times 1 equals 6, right? This is called identity. Whenever we multiply by 1, it always equals itself. So check this out. If I take this, what am I multiplying by right here? I'm multiplying by 1. You're like, wait a second. No, you're not. You're multiplying by 2. No, I'm multiplying by 2 over 2, which is 1. So if we do it again, we can multiply by whatever we want. Let's say we multiply this by 3. As long as we do it to both the top and the bottom, it's going to be an equivalent fraction. Because what is 3 over 3? 3 over 3 equals 1. So in essence, we're multiplying by 1. So watch. 2 times 3 equals 6 over 4 times 3 equals 12. So what we're saying is that if we cut this into 12 pieces, we cut that pizza into 12 pieces, guess what? If we highlight 6 of them, it's going to be the exact same as 1/2. 6 out of 12 pizzas is the exact same as 1 out of 2 pieces. Okay? So now, in order to reduce the fraction, so let's take this 6 out of 12 right here. So let's take 6 over 12. We want to reduce this fraction. We want to minimize this fraction to what's called lowest terms. Okay? How are we going to do that? Here's 2 steps, 2 pretty easy steps. Find the GCF, and then we're going to divide by the GCF. So find the GCF, divide by the GCF. So what is the GCF? Do you remember how to do that? That was a couple lessons ago. So we have 6 and 12. Okay, how do we find the GCF of 6 and 12? Well, we go ahead and factor those, right? So 2, 3, and then it goes 2, 6, 2, 3. So now what we do is we take the 2's, and that's one pair. So we have 2 times, and then we have 3's. That's the second pair. 2 times 3 equals 6. 6 is our GCF. Don't get confused by LCD, right? We're doing the GCF here. When we're reducing, we're using the GCF, greatest common factor. So now if we divide, notice it says to divide both of them by the GCF. 6 divided into 6 equals 1. 6 divided into 12 equals 2. Look what we have. Mind blown, right? Mr. Steve, how did we get all the way back to here? Look, we're all the way back to where we started from, right? Why? How did that happen? Because we used what's called equivalent fractions. They're all equal. Every one of those fractions, this fraction here, they all have the same value. The value is 1/2 of the pizza. It doesn't matter how we do this. If we keep multiplying by the same thing, we're going to continue to get equivalent fractions. If we divide by the same thing, right, we're dividing by 6. If we divide by the GCF, we're going to reduce it back to what's called lowest terms. I'll write that. Lowest terms. Okay, and you're going to hear me say that a lot. I'll say reduce that to lowest terms. Okay, the way that you do that is you find the GCF and then you divide by the GCF. That simple, okay? All right, well, that's all I have for you in this lesson. Hopefully you learned something. If you missed anything, make sure to slide that back, watch it again. Maybe when you're practicing, when you're doing your homework, watch the video again in certain places so you can remember how to do this, okay? That's all I got for you. We'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.